Greetings, Missouri Mid-South Conference. In this month of October, I bring greetings and say to all of our clergy, thank you. This is Clergy Appreciation Month, and I want to personally thank all of our pastors and teachers, all of our chaplains, all of our authorized ministers, ordained, licensed, commissioned, our members in discernment, as you have accepted the call to serve in God's love in our community, in our churches, and in all of our ministry settings, especially during the pandemics of COVID-19 and white supremacy. Thank you. If you are in a local church and you are a member, have you thanked your minister this month? I know that seems like a very easy and simple thing, but I have to tell you that on Facebook, in the UCC clergy groups that go beyond the Missouri Mid-South Conference, but still are our UCC clergy, I can't tell you how many of the clergy are saying on Sunday afternoons during October, my church didn't say anything about clergy appreciation. There has been no words of thank you, no gift, nothing. And I want to say to first of all, the members of our local churches, in this moment especially of 2020, your pastor, your chaplain, your ministers in ministry settings have gone above and beyond what they were called and equipped to do. They have made sure that you can connect on Zoom, that you have felt connected and loved, that you have worship pieces and thought through all of the parts that go beyond what we were trained to do. The least that we can do right now is to say thank you. Please, please make sure that your pastor knows before the end of the month that they are appreciated and loved and supported in the midst of this moment. I say this especially because the next piece that I want to offer is a pastoral letter that, that I wrote in preparation for the presidential election. In less than 2 weeks, the election will be upon us, and as we have already seen and heard, there are many who are voting early, but there is also a spirit of contention like there hasn't been in a long time. There is hostility and animosity because of everything that has been in this year, but because of the very nature of our election in this moment and our nation as a whole. What I say in my pastoral letter is, number one, I am a staunch advocate for the separation of church and state, and so I will not advocate for one candidate or another. I affirm and support each member and minister's personal ability to vote for the candidate that they believe will best serve all of the residents of our nation together in our democracy. And I also know that this time, this presidential election and election season in general will be filled with more strife and contention than ever before in our lifetime, I believe, since at least the 19th century in the 1860s. But also, I want to say and prepare us that, number one, the presidential election results may not be tied up in a nice bow by the time you go to bed on Tuesday, November 3rd, it may continue through the next day, through the next week, through even the next month or 2 months, as we saw and experienced in the year 2000. And I want to prepare us that this may be a part of what we hold as our responsibility, and what your pastor and teacher holds as their responsibility in leading not only your congregation, but in being a leader in the community in this time. And so I invite you to, number one, pray. Pray for your church, pray for our conference, pray for our nation and world in these next few weeks and as we await the results. Number two, I invite you to lead, and a reminder that in that leading, your pastor may feel called to lead through sermons and through peaceful presence in your community. And in this moment, your pastor needs to know that you have their back. Your pastor needs to know that you support them, that you love your pastor, and as it is Clergy Appreciation Month, that you appreciate your pastor in this time. And third, I invite you to consider how you will act. How will you act as a church internally? How will you act as servant leaders as a church in your community that may be vulnerable and fragile, where there may be protests, both peaceful and possibly violent? How is God calling us to act in the midst of the election results? I believe that as we prepare, what we have been hearing is make a plan. I would encourage you as pastor and church to make a plan as well of how in the election results you will pray. How will you lead? And how will you act as an agent of Christ's peace in your community and in our nation in this very fragile moment? People will be looking to us as we are spiritual leaders in the church, in our community, throughout the conference, in our state, and in our nation. And so I implore you, as minister, as church, as members, please make a plan of how you will pray for our nation and our democracy in leading up to the election, that you will lead in how you stand for Christ's peace in the midst of this very fragile moment, and how you will act in loving our neighbors after the election and the results that may take a while, and in the results that may incur some kind of protest, peaceful or possibly violent. What is your plan? What is our plan together? That is my prayer. That is my appreciation that all of the ministers of the Missouri Mid-South Conference have been called, equipped, nurtured, and sustained for this moment of preparing for this election and the results of this election, now and forevermore. Amen.